Now, the Northwest has spent hundreds of thousands of rands on donkey carts for villagers in Mahikeng. Its community safety department forked out 780,000 rand on just 20 carts for people in the Dibono and Manwana districts. Now, it says this is to help alleviate the transport challenges of the rural communities. Well, to discuss this, I'm joined now by political analyst, Professor Andre Duvenhage. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us this evening. I think we all have so many questions regarding this. I mean, are donkey carts really the best possible solution for this community?
Well, when I read the article, it was with a lot of mixed feelings. On the one side, we could argue it is positive in the sense that government is at least doing something in an environment where service delivery is a real problem. On the other side, paying that amount for the number of donkey carts, that's something completely different. And then I was also thinking about the well-known ANC slogan of a better life for all. Is this really a better life for all? If that is the case, then we have serious concerns. We are thinking currently about candlelight in the absence of Eskom. We are talking about donkey carts. To me, that is a clear signal of political decay, of going backwards, not going forward. But at least there are some support. And if we think about the 62% of the population in South Africa living in poverty, I think we can argue for some it will be helpful. But the majority of cases, I think this is a step in the wrong direction.
Let's take a look at, some possible solutions to what could have been done better here, because 780,000 rand, that's a lot of money. And if we break it down, it's about 32,000 rand for a one or a two-seater and 45,000 rand for a four-seater of one of these donkey carts. Are these numbers really justified when we take a look at these structures, how they are built? I mean, when I look at these structures, it looks unsafe, to be quite honest, and it needs to carry not just pupils to school, but also the elderly to clinics. And when it's raining, will they be protected from the rain? Because it's open structures. There's just one little roof to protect them from the rain. So let's take a look at those numbers, because you mentioned it earlier, 780,000 rand is not justified, but let's unpack that.
I cannot in any way see how you can justify that amount of money in terms of what you get, in terms of, let's call it the cards itself. Generally speaking, it's nothing more than an open trailer, and it's not giving any support or comfort for the people. So in that sense, it is really the mathematics are not working, the financial aspect, and then when it comes to safety, when it comes to the time and all of these, it is just not working. And we can ask, if we talk about 28,000, if we talk about 40,000, we can really say there are other methods in this so-called post-industrial environment that will be a huge improvement on a donkey cart. There's no doubt about it. So I read it as not positive. I read it as negative. What I will say is that in some ways, it is going to bring a bit of relief. But this is not aligned with the government's policy of a better life for all. It is too costly. There are better methodologies dealing with this problem. We are past the industrial age. We are talking about the fourth industrial revolution. Now, is this the South African outcome of a fourth industrial revolution? Then really, we have a problem in this country.
And I mean, Prof, you are from the area, you're from the Northwest, from the province, and you would know these areas, you know the people and you know what they go through on a daily basis. Is the government, the local government, they're doing enough at this current moment for the poor and the vulnerable?
Well, sir, the clear answer to it is a very simple no. They are not doing enough. What we are seeing on a local government level is systems and structures that are falling apart. I remember a year or two back, more than 60% of all the local governments were under Article 139 administration. In other words, they cannot fulfill their functions according to the Constitution and related legislation. We are talking about service delivery that are falling apart. We are talking about infrastructure. I think in many ways, Northwest Province has become the symbol of dysfunctional local government, even in a South African context. And that is a very unfortunate scenario. The positive side to this is that the new ANC leadership that was elected a month or two ago, the leadership of Nanu Moloi, they are trying to turn this process around. I know about the steps they have taken with regard to Ditsabotla, the Lichtenburg environment. So at least there is something going on. But the province needs a turnaround strategy, and we need a complete re-overhaul of the local government system and in many areas on provincial level as well.
It's good that you mentioned that because, you know, the Northwest has been in the spotlight when it comes to not just, you know, projects that are failing, but also corruption and many other negatives. But a few weeks ago, we heard of 4 people also being arrested, and they appeared in court actually involving 200 million rand corruption involving aircraft deals. And one of them, one of the 4, are a former Northwest Transport head of department. Taking a look at the transport department, because it's also now to do with these donkey carts, you know, is there something there that's not in place in that department specifically in the Northwest?
Well, I think it is not necessarily that department alone. I think the problem is more endemic to the whole provincial structure and all its departments. You will remember that they put the province under administration for a very long time. So it was clear that the problems are not located to one single area. But you are quite right. The Department of Transport has serious challenges within its own structure. And my assessment is that in a way, the culture of state capture is still continuing on certain levels. And it's unfortunate to say it, but we are not making serious inroads into endemic corruption and state capture and turning it around. And that is definitely applicable to the Northwest Province. Hopefully, the new government can make the changes necessary to ensure a better life for all and to ensure service delivery, especially for the poor people in this province.
And lastly, I mean, you have been speaking somewhat positively about the local government in the Northwest. Your prediction and outlook with this new ANC government in the Northwest, some of the new leaders, is it more positive than negative? Just to lastly, you know, point that out.
I think the general picture was a very negative picture. We had the ANC that was under the interim provincial committee. We had no elected leadership. There was high levels of internal conflict and strife in the ANC and within the bigger tripartite alliance. And I think since the election of Nanu Moloi, although there are court cases going on against him, I believe at least there is elective leadership in place. There are some legitimacy. And my contact with the local government environment is telling me that specifically SALGA and other institutions try to make contact with the university, Northwest University, to see how they can change things for the better. In that sense, there's a bit of hope, but we need to implement these initiatives. And hopefully we can bring about these changes, but we have seen that the government is building up for 2024 election, and the election is going to be very difficult, and I believe that we may see, generally speaking, higher levels of instability throughout the country that may affect local government in a negative way.
So, sorry, it's very interesting that you mentioned there that they reached out to the Northwest University to collaborate or work together in solving the province's issues. Am I understanding that correctly?
You understand that correctly. There are committees, they reach out to us, especially within the framework of the business school, to see how they can get knowledge and skills and how we can develop programs to assist them in terms of building knowledge and skills, rebuilding institutions, and that type of thing. So the tendency in that sense is positive.
Thank you so much. That was political analyst Professor Andre Duvenhage joining us this evening from the Northwest University.